Section 1. Safeguarding Humanity. The Geneva Declaration on Prisoners of War. The Geneva Declaration of Prisoners of War stands as a cornerstone of international humanitarian law. It represents a global commitment to protect the rights and dignity of those captured during armed conflict. The declaration emerged from a shared recognition that even in the midst of war, humanity must prevail. It serves as a solemn reminder that prisoners of war are not pawns to be exploited, but individuals deserving of respect and humane treatment. The Geneva Declaration, along with the broader framework of the Geneva Conventions, establishes a set of rules designed to mitigate the suffering inherent in war. At its core, the Declaration affirms that prisoners of war are entitled to basic protections. These include the right to life, humane treatment, and access to medical care. It prohibits torture, cruel treatment, and outrages upon personal dignity. The Declaration underscores the principle that capture in war does not extinguish an individual's fundamental rights. It recognizes that prisoners of war are often placed in vulnerable positions, subject to the whims of their captors. The Geneva Declaration serves as a vital safeguard against abuse and mistreatment. It establishes a framework for accountability, reminding states and armed groups of their obligations under international law. By adhering to these principles, we strive to preserve a semblance of humanity even amidst the chaos of conflict. Section 2. Pillars of Protection, the Geneva Conventions and Prisoners of War. The Geneva Conventions, a set of 4 treaties and 3 additional protocols, form the bedrock of international humanitarian law. They establish comprehensive rules governing the conduct of warfare and the protection of individuals affected by armed conflict. Central to these conventions is the recognition of prisoners of war as protected persons deserving of specific safeguards. The Third Geneva Convention, adopted in 1949, focuses specifically on the treatment of prisoners of war. This convention outlines detailed provisions regarding the capture, detention, and release of prisoners of war. It mandates that prisoners of war must be treated humanely at all times without any adverse distinction based on race, religion, nationality, or political beliefs. The convention prohibits torture, cruel treatment, and degrading punishment. It guarantees access to medical care, adequate food and water, and the right to communicate with their families. Furthermore, the Convention establishes rules regarding the conditions of captivity, including hygiene, space, and access to the open air. It allows for the establishment of protecting powers and the involvement of humanitarian organizations like the International Committee of the Red Cross, or ICRC, to monitor the treatment of prisoners of war. The Geneva Conventions, with their emphasis on the humane treatment of prisoners of war, serve as a testament to the enduring power of international law to uphold human dignity even in the most challenging of circumstances. Section 3. Guardians of Humanity. The ICRC's vital role in protecting POWs. The International Committee of the Red Cross, or ICRC, plays a crucial role in upholding the principles enshrined in the Geneva Conventions. As an impartial, neutral, and independent organization, the ICRC is mandated to protect and assist victims of armed conflict, including prisoners of war. With a long-standing history of humanitarian action, the ICRC acts as a guardian of humanity in the midst of war. One of the ICRC's primary functions is to visit and monitor places of detention, including prisoner of war camps. During these visits, ICRC delegates assess the treatment of detainees, ensuring that they are held in conditions that meet international standards. They monitor for any signs of abuse, ill treatment, or violations of the Geneva Conventions. The ICRC engages in confidential dialogue with detaining authorities, addressing concerns and advocating for improvements in the treatment of prisoners of war. Beyond monitoring, the ICRC provides essential humanitarian assistance to prisoners of war. This includes distributing food, water, hygiene items, and other essential supplies. The ICRC also facilitates family contact, enabling prisoners of war to exchange messages with their loved ones. In some cases, the ICRC facilitates the release and repatriation of prisoners of war, playing a vital role in reuniting families torn apart by conflict. Section 4. Upholding dignity in conflict, recent events, and the urgency of international law. Recent conflicts around the world have tragically highlighted the ongoing challenges in upholding the Geneva Conventions and protecting prisoners of war. From the ongoing conflict in Ukraine to the complex situation in the Middle East, reports of prisoner abuse, mistreatment, and disregard for international humanitarian law continue to surface. These violations serve as stark reminders of the fragility of human rights during wartime. The ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, for instance, has raised concerns about the treatment of both prisoners of war and civilians caught in the crossfire. The ICRC has been actively engaged in facilitating the release of hostages and advocating for humanitarian access to affected populations. Similarly, the conflict in Ukraine has witnessed allegations of prisoner abuse and violations of the Geneva Conventions by both sides. It is in these complex and challenging environments that the principles of international humanitarian law are put to the test. The Geneva Declaration of Prisoners of War, along with the broader framework of the Geneva Conventions, stands as a testament to our shared humanity. These instruments remind us that even in the midst of conflict, there are limits to what is permissible. Respecting international humanitarian law is not merely a legal obligation, it is a moral imperative. By upholding the dignity of prisoners of war, we strive to preserve a semblance of humanity amidst the chaos of war. As we navigate an increasingly complex and interconnected world, it is more important than ever to reaffirm our commitment to these fundamental principles and to hold all parties accountable for their actions.